the HOA board thought no one was watching. Every morning their cars raced down the quiet private road like it belonged only to them, but hidden beside the mailbox, a small radar camera was quietly recording every mile per hour. Ethan Walker had lived on Cedar Ridge Road for 6 peaceful years. It was a narrow private road lined with tall maple trees and quiet homes. Children rode bikes there. Neighbors walked their dogs in the evenings. The speed limit was clearly posted at 15 miles per hour to keep the street safe, yet recently something had changed. The same 3 luxury SUVs from the neighborhood's HOA board began flying down the road every morning. Tires crunching gravel. Engines roaring far louder than the peaceful neighborhood deserved. At first Ethan ignored it. Everyone had bad mornings, but the speeding never stopped. One afternoon his daughter nearly dropped her bike when a black SUV rushed past far above the limit. That was the moment Ethan decided something had to change. Since the road passed directly through his property, he had the legal right to monitor traffic. So he installed a small radar speed camera beside his mailbox. The device looked simple, but what it captured over the next few days would reveal something the HOA board never expected. And once Ethan saw the recordings, he realized the story was only beginning. The radar camera started recording the very next morning. At exactly 7:12 a.m., the first SUV appeared. The device flashed quietly, 32 miles per hour. Ethan blinked when he checked the footage later that day. The speed limit was 15. The next clip showed another vehicle, 29 miles per hour. Then another, 35. Every single car belonged to members of the HOA board. Day after day the camera collected more evidence. Each clip showed the same thing: board members racing down the quiet road as if the rules didn't apply to them. What made the situation stranger was that these same board members constantly sent warnings to neighbors about tiny rule violations. Mailbox colors, grass height, holiday decorations. They insisted that rules were important for the community, but apparently those rules only applied to everyone else. By the end of the week Ethan had dozens of clips saved on his laptop. Each one clearly displayed the date, time, and exact speed. That's when he noticed something interesting in the property documents. Cedar Ridge Road wasn't just near his property, the road legally belonged to him, which meant something very important. If people were breaking traffic rules on his private road, he might actually have the authority to issue penalties. And suddenly Ethan realized the HOA board might soon learn what accountability felt like. Instead of reacting immediately, Ethan decided to do something smarter. He gathered every piece of evidence carefully. The radar camera logged speed, time, and vehicle movement with perfect clarity. Each clip showed the vehicles entering his private road and accelerating well beyond the posted limit. Ethan printed the records and organized them into neat folders. Then he checked the county regulations about private roads. The information surprised even him. Property owners were allowed to enforce safety rules on private access roads, especially if those roads crossed personal land. Which meant Ethan didn't need approval from the HOA, the law already gave him authority. Still, Ethan wasn't interested in causing unnecessary conflict. His goal was simple: make the road safe again. So he wrote a calm message to the HOA board. Attached were screenshots from the radar camera showing the speeding violations. His message ended politely: please remind board members to follow the posted speed limit for everyone's safety. Ethan expected an apology, maybe even a thank you. Instead, the reply he received 2 hours later was only 3 sentences long, and the tone of the message made it clear the board had no intention of changing their behavior, which meant the quiet radar camera by Ethan's mailbox was about to become far more important than anyone expected. The HOA board's email arrived that afternoon: your radar camera is not authorized by the association. Ethan read the sentence twice. The message continued: all monitoring equipment must receive HOA approval. Ethan leaned back in his chair, slightly amused. The road wasn't owned by the HOA, it crossed directly through his land before reaching the rest of the neighborhood, which meant the camera didn't require their permission. But the email ended with something that changed the situation completely: if the device is not removed within 48 hours, fines may be issued. For a moment Ethan considered ignoring the message, but then he looked at the folders of radar footage again. Every speeding clip included a clear timestamp, and nearly all the vehicles belonged to the same small group, the HOA board itself. Suddenly Ethan had an idea: if the board believed they could issue fines so easily, maybe it was time they experienced how that process actually worked. So Ethan drafted a new document. It listed every speeding incident recorded by the radar camera. Next to each violation he placed a simple number, a traffic penalty, and when he added the totals together, the final amount made even Ethan pause, because if the HOA board wanted to enforce rules, they were about to discover what happens when those rules apply to everyone. The following week, every HOA board member opened their mailbox to find an envelope. Inside was a printed notice titled, Private Road Traffic Violations. Each letter contained radar images showing their vehicle speeds, timestamps, and the posted 15-mile-per-hour limit. Below the evidence was a polite explanation: Cedar Ridge Road was privately owned property. Traffic safety rules applied to all drivers using it, and repeated violations would result in fines. The board members were not happy. Within hours, Ethan received multiple emails demanding the notices be withdrawn. One message even claimed the radar camera was unfair monitoring. But Ethan responded calmly with copies of the legal property documents. The road crossed his land, which meant he had the authority to enforce safety rules. Over the next few days, something interesting happened. The speeding stopped. Cars rolled down Cedar Ridge Road slowly and carefully. But the story didn't end there, because during the next HOA community meeting, the radar camera became the most discussed topic of the night. And the board soon realized the entire neighborhood had begun asking one uncomfortable question: why were the people who enforced the rules the first ones to break them? The HOA meeting that month was unusually crowded. Neighbors filled the small community hall, curious about the radar camera controversy. For years the board had been strict about community rules, but Ethan's radar footage had created a moment no one expected: proof, clear evidence showing the same leaders who enforced rules were ignoring them on a daily basis. When the discussion began, Ethan calmly explained the situation. He wasn't trying to embarrass anyone, he simply wanted the private road to remain safe for children, walkers, and families. Then he showed a short clip from the radar camera. The room fell quiet. The speed number appeared clearly on the screen: 34 miles per hour. Several neighbors exchanged surprised looks. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. What made the moment powerful wasn't anger, it was fairness. If rules existed for the community, they should apply equally to everyone. By the end of the meeting, something unexpected happened. Several residents suggested updating the HOA leadership during the next election cycle, not out of frustration, but because communities work best when rules are respected by everyone, including those who create them. And suddenly Ethan's small radar camera had started a conversation that could change the neighborhood. A few months later, Cedar Ridge Road felt different. Cars moved slowly through the neighborhood. Children played near the sidewalks without worry, and the radar camera beside Ethan's mailbox still quietly recorded the speed of every passing vehicle. But the most surprising change happened during the HOA elections. Several new board members were chosen by the community. Their first message to residents was simple: rules should protect neighborhoods, not create unfair expectations. The radar camera had never been about punishment, it had been about accountability. Ethan sometimes smiled when he checked the speed logs now. Most drivers stayed well below the limit. The quiet street had returned to the peaceful place it once was. And the people who once ignored the rules had learned something important about leadership, because when fairness guides a community, trust naturally follows, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you love the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.